I was born into a noble family, graceful and poised, and only when I reached adulthood did I marry as the princess consort to the prince of the commandery. The arrogant and willful little prince did not like me. He found me stiff and dull, and instead pursued the most radiant and dazzling girl in the brothel. He spent great effort for her to bring a snowfall in summer, and lit the grandest fireworks for her at night. On the day I married that girl, he warned me not to bully the one he loves. I simply thanked him gratefully. The little prince believed I was heartbroken and insane, but I was sincere. Thank him for teaching me how to love, how to pursue the person I like. In my youth, when it was pitch dark and undisturbed by a single ripple, there once was light. Now, I'm going to try to seize it. 1. Jiang Sheshue. Even if you're heartbroken and mad, if you do anything to ruin the night of my wedding chamber, I will not spare you. Xie Jingzhua looked at me, his chin held high, and said, so. Behave yourself a bit more tonight, understand? He is so strikingly handsome, and at this moment, wearing a red wedding gown, with brows and eyes arrogant, it's like a ball of blazing sun crashing into the room, ready to burn everything, so dazzling that I can't help but think of another person. Yes. I lowered my eyes and spoke softly. I've already asked the kitchen to prepare dishes and pastries that young Lady Red Carp loves, and had the servants' hot water ready. After you and young Lady Red Carp seal the marriage, you can bathe and rest. Xie Jingzhua's expression turned somewhat odd. When did you prepare this? I answered truthfully. When the master went to fetch the bride. No wonder I didn't see you in the morning. I thought you were sad. And Xie Jingzhua swallowed the rest of his words, his face turning cold as he sneered. A mouthful of talk, truly shameless. He flipped his sleeve and left, his silhouette fading among the red ribbons outside the house. 2. Wife has managed the household orderly from top to bottom, and even proactively taken a second wife for the prince. There is no one better than you in all of Kyoto. How can the prince be so unreasonable? My maidservant was infuriated by Xie Jingzhua. I gave a small smile. He doesn't like me, and no matter how well I do, it won't please him. I married Xie Jingzhua because I was the most proper and courteous noblewoman in the capital. I was born into the great Jiang clan, although my mother died early and my stepmother raised her own children. I am the only daughter whom the Jiang family poured all their heart and effort into to bring up. Xie Jingzhua is the eldest son of the Grand Princess, and the beloved nephew of His Majesty the Grand Princess, along with the Emperor, the Empress, and the Empress Dowager, combed through all the eligible girls in the capital, and only then did they barely choose me. This is proof enough of how excellent I am. I can recite poems, paint, play the qin, and I can also cook, embroider, and host the middle banter. Everyone says that the Jiang family has a daughter coveted by 10,000 families. Even so, Xie Jingzhua does not like me. He thinks I am dull and finds me too rigid. On the wedding night, he got drunk and lifted the veil to lean in and look at me. In his glittering eyes, my frightened face was reflected. Are you the Jiang clan daughter that uncle and my mother have been praising endlessly? Before I could answer, I watched Xie Jingzhua casually tear off his wedding robe. Hurry up, the sooner you finish, the sooner you can rest. He lifted my chin and was about to kiss me. The scent of alcohol hit my nose, and I startledly stepped back. Xie Jingzhua frowned, a look of impatience on his face. Do you still want to act all righteous at this moment? Not. Before I could explain, he picked up the joyful robe and draped it over himself, then turned to leave. As he reached the door, he even sneered at the bridesmaid sent by the palace inside. Mother really has good judgment. She invited in a virtuous and chaste heroine who refuses to take off her clothes on the wedding night. That night, he went to the brothel and spent a fortune to buy the red carp girl who was already a guest for one night. All of Beijing says that a Jiang family daughter of wealth and high status is no match for a single fish in the pool. The Jiang girl is me, and that fish is naturally the red carp. The matters of my inner chamber were dragged out and mocked as a joke, which woman could bear to endure. During that period, I dared not step out of the room even a half step. Upon hearing of this, the Grand Princess immediately summoned me to the palace to offer comfort, and she also tied up Xie Jingzhua and gave him a beating with a board. Even though he had been beaten to the point of being utterly exhausted, Xie Jingzhua still refused to agree to the Grand Princess not to go seeking the red carps again. Seeing that my eyes were turning red, the long princess, sighed and comforted me, saying, Jishua, don't be sad, brother Jing is young and fond of play now, when he grows older, he will understand how good you are protecting him. I gave a faint smile, bowed, and did not answer. The tears nearly came not because of Xie Jingzhua, but because someone once chose me with no reservations in the same way. I just suddenly felt a little missing him. 3. I was lost in thought when suddenly a clear sound of breaking porcelain rang from outside the window. The neighbor's courtyard is where the Redcarp resides. What happened? They say Miss Redcarp was in a whimsical mood and wanted to hear the sound of breaking porcelain, so the prince ordered people to move all the teacups and vases to the neighboring courtyard, and they're tossing them about for Miss Redcarp to play with. Xie Jingzhua has always been extremely fond of the Redcarp, so I wasn't surprised. The returning maid sneered, you even bring the brothel style into the prince's residence. Shameless, I smiled, and suddenly thought of my flowers still outside, so I hurriedly said, Moon, go check the freesias I left outside for me. Moon you understands how important this flower is to me, and her face suddenly pales as she hurries out to look. My eyesight isn't good, and I can't see the road clearly at night. I always stumble when I go out. Right now I don't care about anything else, and I stagger after Moonyu, running outside. Moonyu, is Xuelan still here? Madam, the flowers are here, but the jade bottle is gone. Surely that fox spirit took it to listen to the sound. Where is it? I squatted down and groped at the ground. Yua hurriedly handed the flowers back. It's here, madam. I took it up, not caring that the soil would soil my clothes, and I held the lily with the bud still attached in my arms. Go back quickly to find a new vase, and get some more soil. I had just finished telling the moon to, out loud when the courtyard beside me opened its door. What is all the noise about? It was Xie Jingzhua's voice. Filled with anger, I held the moon behind me, using the sound to discern his location, and I knelt in salute. Forgive me, Your Highness, it is my thing that was lost, it has now been found, and I will return at once. A soft, coquettish voice sounded. There won't be anything of the princess in what I smashed today. Right. The servants lit the lamps as I suddenly touched the light. My eyes were pierced by tears. Xie Jingzhua's voice carried a touch of annoyance. If you have grievances, tell me. The king yourself. Why are you crying? He has never been patient with me. I used a handkerchief to wipe away the tears that overflowed at the corner of my eye, and whispered, only a vase was lost. It's no big deal. Xie Jingzhua froze for a moment, then remembered that he had ordered a servant to move all the family's vases here for the Redcarp to smash and play with. Sorry, I didn't realize there was something of yours in there. He paused for a moment, speaking softly. If not, then you can come with me to the storeroom now, and I will personally pick a good one for you. I was stunned, not expecting him to abandon the Redcarp for a vase. Today is the prince's joyous day. A cheap trinket doesn't require the prince's worry. I have no intention of vying for favor. If today's matter gets out, it would not benefit me or Redcarp at all. Xie Jingzhua's face suddenly grew cold, and he sneered, acting without knowing what's good for you. He led the Redcarp and turned to leave. 5 inside the room, it was silent, the lights small like beans, flickering gently, pulling the thin silhouette onto the ground into a soft sway like Chang'e, about to fly to the moon palace. The moon gazed at me while I gently stroked the wilted green leaves of the jasmine, and asked worriedly, Madam, is this flower never going to blossom? I shook my head lightly. I don't know either. The jasmine was in its flowering season, yet it refused to bloom. That man's voice suddenly rang in my ears. If Ruo Shui land stops blooming, then send me a letter. I hoped it wouldn't bloom, yet I feared it might truly not bloom after all. This is the flower he gave me. I can't bear to see it wither. Counting the time, this amaryllis has already bloomed calmly for 3 years. Each time it bloomed so brilliantly, like a blue flame. In the 4th year after he left the capital, in the 4th year after I married, the amaryllis bloomed no more. I can finally write him a letter. 6 late at night, after the moon fell asleep, I spread paper and ground ink alone. When I am about to write, my wrist trembles softly, as if the pen weighs 1,000 pounds. Just as I wrote the 3 characters, Yang Jing Chun, I set down the brush and discarded the Shen paper. After several years apart, is it improper to call out a name so directly? Unfold another new sheet of paper, brew anew. Suddenly, faint moans came from the neighboring yard. I paused. Xie Jingzhuo was stubborn to this extent. In the yard I closed my eyes for a moment, stood up, and drew the window shut. Fang sat down, and the knocking at the door resumed. Princess, the prince wants you to come over. Xie Jingzhuo actively told me to go, which usually means it's not going to be good news. Earlier I had a servant fetch a white jade bottle for you to see if you fancy it. His voice was hoarse, his face still feigning desire, as he languidly hugged the red carp in his arms. The two of them were covered by only a single blanket. I kept my eyes lowered, letting my gaze drift softly over the jade bottle. Thank you, Your Highness, for the gift. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. I turned to walk away, but Xie Jingzhuo spoke coldly. Do you want me to leave? The ambiguous voice immediately reached my ears. I stood with my back to them, my body stiff. Sir, you're so mean, you hurt someone. The red carp's coquettish voice rang out. It's cold outside. I want to go in, fragile thing. Xie Jingzhuo smiled indulgently. Then there was a soft, rustling sound. I felt him pause when he passed behind me, and then the door slammed shut with a bang in the yard. Only my breath remained. 7. Xie Jingzhuo teased Jiang Sheshue for a while, but he was not happy. He often hears friends complain that at home there is a rouge tiger, who torments her after she speaks a few words with other women, but Jiang Sheshue never concerns herself with his affairs. On their wedding night, she forbade herself from touching him, so he sulked for 3 years, refusing to share a bed with her, yet every day lingering at the flower houses, while Jiang Shui kept lighting the lamp and waiting for him to return home. He did countless foolish things for the red carp, and she didn't get angry or jealous, still guarding the lamp and waiting for him to return home. Even when he shared a bed with the red carp in front of her, she didn't react much. There isn't a girl in the entire capital who wouldn't melt at the sight of Xie Jingzhuo except Jiang Sheshue. Xie Jingzhuo felt depressed and went out to drink with friends. The friend laughed and asked, Little prince, with a wise wife by your side and a concubine in your arms, do you still have worries? Everyone in Manchurian capital knew what kind of person Jiang Sheshue was. Jiang Shueishue's appearance in front of others is no different from that in front of him, but clearly, she did not appear in this manner before their marriage. Xie Jingzhu grew even more irritable. I believe Jiang Sheshue doesn't like me. Whatever I do, she won't get jealous or angry. His friend smiled knowingly. She's truly trapped in love. Nonsense, Xie Jingzhu retorted fiercely, like a cat with its tail crushed underfoot. I don't like her. The friend waved his fan and asked with a raised eyebrow. Then the young prince wants to know, does the princess actually like you? Xie Jingzhu turned his face away with disdain, his expression clearly filled with disgust. First, tell me, a flower morning banquet will be held in the palace tomorrow. 8. For the flower morning banquet, I will attend as the princess consort of the commandery as a concubine. The red carp was originally not allowed to enter the palace. Xie Jingzhuo insisted on wooing the grand princess with soft words and determination, begging for the right to join the banquet with his beloved. He even insisted on riding alongside him in the county prince's ceremonial carriage. The moonlight made her cheeks burn with anger, and she muttered all the way, "This is absolutely outrageous. How could the prince slap a mother's face like this?" I sat upright, peering through the gaps in the car curtain to see Xie Jingzhuo carefully helping the red carp alight from the vehicle. Ignoring the gazes of the other ministers and their families, I suddenly spoke. Moon, to love someone, it should be this way, right? To love someone is to risk everything. Fearless and unabashed, I suddenly realized how timid and cowardly I am compared to Xie Jingzhuo. He can create a summer snow for Hong Li, open a mountain full of winter-summer flowers, and give her the dignity of a rightful wife and endless tender love. What about me? I wouldn't even dare to write a letter and send it to the Northwest 9, because I had things on my mind. I was absent-minded throughout the entire Huaqiao feast, until a burst of cheers woke me up. It turned out it was Xie Jingzhuo's turn to shoot the willow. The dust was bleached by the noonday sun, and the single red garment he wore looked especially conspicuous. The young general rolled his cuffs up to his forearm, revealing a slender, even wrist, and in the windy gust he bent the bow and narked the arrow. The surrounding area suddenly quieted. He slowly raised the bow, the string against his cheek, the bowstring singing as it gradually stretched taut. A gust of wind tore through, and the willow branch tied with red silk trembled with it, then fell from the air. He shrugged his sleeve and casually wiped the sweat from his brow, lifting his brows and smiling. Into the crowd's cheers, still full of untamable pride, I stood there stunned. Many years ago, there was also a spirited young man who won first place at the flower festival, all just to make me smile. Didn't Imperial Uncle say that whoever takes first place can ask for a reward? Xie Jingzhuo descended from the arena and knelt beneath the jade stairs. The emperor doted on him and let him speak at will. Xie Jingzhuo glanced at me and made a single bow to the ground. Please allow your imperial uncle to permit me to support the concubine's room as a peace wife. 10. As if struck by a bolt of thunder, the hall instantly seethed with excitement. One look after another was cast my way. There was sympathy, mockery, and pity. My mind was in a tangle. Yet one idea struggles its way out from within. Jiang Sheshue, this is your only chance to return to his side. Jiang Sheshue, you must not be afraid. You must not retreat. Take one step forward and you will be a little closer to him. Jiang Sheshue, he has waited for you in the northwest for many years. I suddenly stood up in an instant. Everyone looked at me. The emperor, restraining an almost furious princess, asked softly, "Does the princess consort of the prince also have something to say?" Xie Jingzhuo looked at me with a slightly pale face, and a hint of self-satisfaction appeared in his eyes. "Jiang family, do not lose your courtesy before the holy carriage." His scolding strangely brought me a sense of calm. I did not look at him, stepped forward quietly, prostrated myself on the ground, and spoke each word deliberately. "Your Majesty, I am willing to ask to be dismissed and relinquish the position of primary consort, to fulfill the prince's wishes." 11. Perhaps I was too nervous. I can't clearly remember what happened afterward. It was chaotic. Xie Jingzhuo flew into a rage on the spot, gripping my wrist tightly and demanding to know why. His eyes were frighteningly red. I wasn't afraid. My mind felt like it was fogging up. The world seemed divided, hazy and blurred. I said, "You are not good to me." Xie Jingzhuo was stunned and was led away by a few of the rest guards. The Huaqiao banquet ended as quickly as that. When I returned to the prince's mansion, I began to pack up. The things I acquired after marrying in cannot be taken away. They are the Wang mansion's property. The things I brought when I married in must be returned. They are the dowry given by the Jiang family. What counts as mine is only a few dresses left by my mother and that withered orchid. After changing my clothes, I am about to leave with Yue, but at the doorway, I collided with Xie Jingzhuo. 12. He seemed to have been waiting for me all along, eyeing my attire and the huge procession of luggage behind me, and he taunted, "Are you in such a hurry to leave?" I lowered my eyelashes, and softly said, "My concubine is no longer the prince's wife. Staying at the prince's mansion would be improper for courtesy." S brow and eyes held surging rage, and he spoke sternly. "Jiang Sheshue, I have never agreed to divorce if there is no divorce. What do you want this prince to do?" In the past I adhered to ritual and propriety, never daring to meet his gaze, but today I somehow found the courage to raise my eyes and ask him, "Do you still want me to live among the rumors that degrade me into mud? Do you still want me to listen in the courtyard to those dissonant and unsavory sounds? Do you still want me to yield the face of the legitimate wife every time, to add luster to your favored concubine? Do you still want me to light a lone lamp here in this four-cornered cage and wait for you to look back? My lord, I am only unwilling to please you. I have not committed some unforgivable sin. Enduring all this is already hard enough." In the end, I almost choked up. Xie Jingzhuo's face began to pale a little. He opened his mouth, but found himself speechless. As wife of Xie Jingzhuo, and as the princess consort of the Duke of the County, I manage the gatehouse and the front and backyards. There has never been any fault in my conduct, whether in front of people or behind closed doors. I endure the tears, bow in salute, and softly say, "Although this concerns my own duties, today I am willing to humbly plead with the prince to consider my hardships and grant me a peaceful parting." Everything around us turned to nothing at this moment. Xie Jingzhuo could only see the tears hanging in the woman's eyes like an unfathomable vast ocean. It pulls him to drown within it. Xie Jingzhuo wants to say, "Don't cry, I will change, I treat you well." could you stay? But his proud spirit still won't bow, only a disdainful sneer escapes. Jiang Shushue, you must not regret. 13 Regret. There are too many things I regret except for this one. I do not regret. The noonday sun is dazzling. I lift my lashes and look at the plaque hanging high before me. The two characters for Jiang Mansion are solemn, sturdy, and dignified, truly the bearing of a noble family. At the flower festival banquet, I yielded the position of the legitimate wife, and my father then sent someone to prepare to take me back to the mansion. But when I go back, will it be peaceful then? I followed the servants from the side gate to the main hall. Father sat with a cold face in the hall, with the stepmother by his side. Around him were many people. The ones seated were the elders, and those standing were all my brothers and sisters. I kowtowed under my skirt. Filial daughter Jiang Shuejian pays her respects to father and mother. Father takes a shallow sip of tea and speaks softly. Choose a day, shave your head and enter the ancestral hall. Seeing my puzzled expression, the stepmother explains. The Jiang family rules state that a woman who divorces or is betrothed off must shave her head and serve the ancestors in the ancestral hall for life and may never leave again. My heart sank, pressing my forehead against the cold stone slab. My daughter still has unfinished business. Let father reclaim his decree. Such a strange, rebellious daughter. Father could hardly believe it. What did you say? I stubbornly knelt and simply said, please have father revoke the decree. You threw the crown princess's face to the ground and stomped on it, and you were cast off by the royalty. Under the sun, which family would dare marry you? Without entering the ancestral hall, what do you intend to do? My father suddenly went berserk, and when his brows and eyes bore a stained resemblance to mine and my mother's, all his fury condensed into one word of helplessness. Wipe the snow. Listen to me. I obediently followed the clan's arrangement, becoming the Jiang family's gentle and virtuous legitimate daughter. Over more than 10 years in the boudoir with no slack day by day, also obediently obeyed the elders' commands, married as a prince's wife, but years of backroom wandering left me almost a stranger to the one I deeply love, never uttering a word of complaint. Now I am still expected to enter the clan shrine meekly, under the Jiang family's protection, to live a life of attending to a blue lamp and ancient Buddha. I am timid, cowardly, and only possess a noble status, but this is not the life I desire. I bowed my head, and the blood trailed down in a winding line, and the voice was never so firm. Father, I am willing to humbly request to be expelled from the clan, and from now on no longer have any connection with the Jiang family. 14. Father did not approve of my voluntary departure from the clan. He asked me to kneel here and wake up my senses. The sun disappeared without notice, leaving only a few dark, somber clouds. A breeze swept by, kicking up a corner of the curtains and laying the pale shadow of the crabapple onto me. I slightly raised my eyes and saw a whole tree of crabapple flowers, not yet in bloom. A small dark silhouette suddenly flashed across the sky like a swallow. I froze. The swallow returns, startling the spring dream. When spring wakes, crabapple blossoms bloom. My mother's name contains tang, crabapple, and she was born loving flowers. Yet in winter she closed her eyes forever, and with her fall the once towering head of the household also toppled. The funeral banners and heaven and earth are the same color, an inrush of white. Everyone in the mansion is bustling so that their feet never touch the ground. I hold a pot of camellias my mother left behind in life, and with great effort I make my way to the well to fetch water to water the flowers. The well wheel is taller than me. I stand on tiptoe but cannot reach. Another stone was moved to pad the foot, barely enough to place the wooden tub. The rope around the well bites into the palm, cold and painful. After much effort, half a bucket of water was hauled up. The wooden tub hit the edge of the well, spilling a lot, the rest bobbing at the bottom, reflecting the grayish sky. I used a gourd ladle to scoop the water. The ladle is too big, my hand too small. I shakily brought it to the edge of the basin, poured it out, but the water slid away along the bottom of the basin. Another splash, still dripping. I hold the scoop, somewhat at a loss, watching the flowers already withering. 15. Flowers can't be watered like this. A rich, clear voice sounded, and I looked up, but a tall figure stood in front of me, blocking my view. The boy took the ladle from my hand, crouched down, wrapped my wet hand with a cloth, and dried it little by little. Girl, don't touch cold water, my mother's flowers have withered. I looked at him and said, tone even, hiding a touch of panic. The boy slightly narrowed his eyes, rubbed my head. Flowers bloom nicely, it's just winter now, they will bloom in spring. His features are stern, but the warmth between his brows counterbalances the chill, turning cold into steady reliability. If he smiles again, it would make me completely believe that he is a good person. Really, I still have some doubts. You don't trust me, you must trust General Xue, right? The boy pulled out a jade tablet from his bosom, on which the character Jin was engraved, the name of my maternal grandfather. I gripped the jade tablet, a veil of water mist rapidly forming in my eyes. The boy stood up, took half a step back, and bowed to me neatly and politely. I, Major General Xue's sworn son Yang Jingchun, have come to the capital at the request of the old general to visit the young lady. His voice settled steadily, like a cup of hot tea in winter, steaming and stirring the heart, making people want to shed tears. I, tired like a bird that has finally found a nest in the rain, rushed into his embrace and cried out loud. Yang Jingchun patted my back gently, sighed softly, unsure whether with worry or pity. Still just a child, 16. Yang Jingchun is a northwestern orphan who later joined the army, and was favored by my maternal grandfather, who took him as an adopted son. This trip back to the capital is, firstly, to offer condolences to my mother on behalf of my maternal grandfather, and, secondly, to visit me. According to our generation, I should call him little uncle. This boy, who is only a little older than me, has great courage. After visiting me, he took my grandfather's jade plaque to perform the family law on my behalf. He is the one who enforces the family law, and my father is the one subjected to it. In front of my mother's spirit tablet, the white ritual banners hang drooping. The father, wearing only a single cotton undershirt, kneeled dejectedly on the mat, his hair disheveled, his shoulders slumped, like a mountain that had lost half its peak. Yang Jingchun stood beside the spiritual tablet, his face cold and stern. The warmth in his eyes and brows faded away completely. The old general marrying off his only daughter to you is the Xue family's trust in you. If you disappoint her, you disappoint the Xue family. He stretched out his hand, and the guards around him immediately presented the sealed whip. The first whip fell, breaking the deathly silence of the hall. Father grunted, his body arching sharply, then stubbornly kneeling again. The second whip, the third whip. In my ear, the crack of the whips sounded like thunder, and I vaguely remembered the day my mother gave birth, the women outside the Jiang mansion crying. Mother knew about her husband's betrayal. She had no strength left to cry, and her tears turned into blood that flowed from her body until they dried up. By the 10th lash, Yang Jingchun stopped. Only 10 lashes were given. Out of consideration for the young lady, he spoke slowly, his voice cold. From now on, if you ever have even the slightest complaint about the young lady, I will personally fill in the rest. He dropped the whip, turned to stand in front of me, shielding me from the snow blowing outside the eaves. No worries. He wiped away my tears, and that soft gentleness returned in his voice. If someone bullies you from now on, just tell Uncle. 17. For some reason, I'm reluctant to call Yang Jingchun uncle. He didn't mind and let me call him whatever I wanted, truly treating me as his dear outside nephew. During the mourning period I'm not allowed to go out, so he often brings me fresh things to pass the time. Sometimes it's a candy figure, sometimes freshly picked cherries, sometimes a script book found from who knows where. Each time something was sent over, he would only stand outside the second door and ask me a few questions. How much food did you use today? Is your coursework heavy? Did you sleep well? Has someone bullied you? Through a door and a gauze curtain, he leaned obliquely against the wall, his tall figure faintly visible, broad shoulders and slim waist, a languid pose. I don't know how many young maids' faces have been blushing because of him. He stayed in the capital to guard me for 3 years. In the spring of the year when I reached the age of forming betrothal, I was about to reach the age for arranging a marriage, and my aunts took me to attend the flower red banquet. During my first time going out to attend a banquet, I was a little anxious and tentatively asked Yang Jingchun whether he would go. I did not utter a single word about being afraid, but he smiled dimly behind the lace curtain. If you want me to go, then I will go. 18 At the flower morning banquet, the emperor summoned him for questioning. And until the moment the willow was shot, he had not returned. Aunts were accompanying the empress and the eldest princess. I was alone, with no noblewomen I knew nearby, and my heart was inevitably panicked. The willow shot was nearly finished, the lead was decided, and everyone was preparing to enter the hall for the banquet, but a clear, cheerful voice rang out, "Please wait a moment, let me give it a try." Everyone looked on with curiosity. They saw a handsome young man biting a piece of white cloth wrapped around his wrist, dressed in purple, with ink-black hair and a radiant, spirited expression. He met my gaze, raised an eyebrow with a smile, flamboyant and passionate. My face flushed a little, yet a few resentments rose in my heart. He clearly said he would accompany me, but after finishing his tasks he hurried off to shoot willows over there. Yang Jingchun had already picked up his bow and arrows. He stood in the center of the willow field, narking the arrow, drawing the bow, his movements clean and fluid like flowing clouds and water. When the bowstring was stretched to its limit, his entire body resembled a drawn bow, taut, sharp, as if harboring thunder. The arrow tore through the air and struck the willow branch precisely. A cheer rose from the edge of the field. He ignores him and shoots another arrow. Whoosh, another hit right on target. The willow branches fall again. During the third arrow, he suddenly tilted his head and glanced my way. Through the crowd and the warm spring sunshine, my heart gave a jolt. I wanted to dodge, but I couldn't look away. He lifted his lips in a smile, then he turned around and loosened the strings. The third willow branch fell in response to the sound. The crowd around the field was already in an uproar. He remained unfazed, merely accepting the ceremonial gift presented to the leader from the servant before approaching me. The purple-clad hunter fluttered about, striking with a piercing brightness. A servant from who knows where stepped forward and said something to him. He smiled and gave me a glance, then shook his head. He walked up to me, stood before me, bowed slightly, and faced me eye to eye. "Are you stunned?" he asked with a smile, his voice slightly labored yet still clear. I turned away. "Who's looking at you?" "Then who are you looking at?" I didn't answer. He chuckled and handed me the talisman in his hand. "Dear lady, don't take offense. I ran straight from the imperial study to secure this lucky charm for you." My eyes lingered on the talisman resting in his palm, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. "You clearly just wanted to draw attention." He raised an eyebrow. "Is my desire to show off in front of you so obvious?" My face flushed bright red. His smile grew bolder, attracting many eyes. I was at a loss, quickly changing the subject. "What did that person just tell you?" "His young wife wants to bargain for this good omen and asks whether I'll give it to her." Yang Jingchun pushes the talisman in front of me, sighing deeply, seemingly very helpless. "I can't do it. My wife is also temperamental and waiting for me to bring the omen to appease her." My heart skipped a beat at that moment. The world fell silent. A breeze blows, and Chiba echoes with song. 20. I don't want the talisman. My father had long told me that the Grand Princess intends for me to become her daughter-in-law. I cannot resist the decree, and I certainly must not harbor any foolish thoughts about my own uncle. Yang Jingchun thinks I am still angry, so she brings a lot of gifts every day to atone. I do not want his things, nor will I see him. He then wrote a letter every day and sent it over. The envelope contained only a note reading, "Please take care of Uncle Lily," and occasionally a few dried flowers were included. I locked those notes along with my mother's personal belongings in a box, too afraid to look at them again. Although I do not reply to letters or meet with him, Yang Jingchun never stopped sending gifts and letters for a single day, until the imperial decree is issued. When receiving the imperial edict, I glanced at him without deviation. I noticed a slight pause in his expression after the people in the palace left. Everyone approached to offer their congratulations. He still told me as before, "If you get bullied after marriage, remember to inform your uncle." I bowed to him and replied formally, "Thank you, uncle." This was the first time I addressed him as uncle. He listened, but did not laugh. She gazed at me, her lips twitching into a barely perceptible curve. 21. He did not send any further letters thereafter. I heard he went back to the northwest and continued to be his little general. I began learning to manage the pantry and accounts, And I didn't bother to specially inquire about his news. How far is the northwest from the capital? Is the moon in the northwest as full as the moon in the capital? I know nothing at all. Yang Jingchun just disappeared from my life like swallows coming with spring and going with winter. Once winter arrived, there was no trace of him, but after getting on the bridal sedan, how could he possibly wait for my spring? Thus my life returned to the stillness of dead water. I study etiquette and housekeeping day after day, waiting to become a wife for another man I do not know, until half a month before my wedding, a freesia and a letter crossed thousands of mountains and rivers from the northwest and was handed to me. The freesia's root was wrapped in soil, its leaves bright green, already budding. I opened the letter. His handwriting is not as flamboyant as his personality. Instead, it is restrained, with every stroke neat and orderly. Hearing of your grand wedding, I should personally come to congratulate you. Unable to leave the army, I ask someone to bring back this orchid every spring. It will deliver the first blooming flower to you on my behalf. If the flower does not bloom, I will ask someone to bring me a letter, and I will then seek another good plant. If someone bullies you, remember to tell Uncle Xiaojiu. End signature, Yang Jinchun. My fingertips cautiously touched those 3 characters, but felt a little damp. The ink marks are clearly new. I clenched the letter and ran out frantically, throwing behind me the posture and the already embroidered wedding dress with a group of panicked maidservants far in the distance. That spring of mine, which was out of reach, at least let me have one last look, even if just a glance. But he didn't come. Among the group of astonished people in the front yard, there was no sign of him. I froze, tears like beads broken from a line cascading down, yet I forced myself to salute. May I ask, is my grandfather's body still healthy? People only thought I was missing my family. My father, however, saw through my mind and locked me in the isolation room. He wasn't angry. He said, "This door doesn't lock. You can come out when you understand." I sat alone for who knew how many days in the pitch-dark room where I could not see my hand in front of my face. When she came out again, she was so thin that she hardly looked human, and most of her eyes were ruined. She had once again become the eldest daughter of the Jiang family who could not find a single fault. 22. It was getting dark. When my eyes cannot see, my ears become much more acute. Outside suddenly grew noisy, footsteps scattered. Someone shouted, "What is the long princess coming to the Jiang family for?" While I was puzzled, someone grasped my arm and supported me. "Second sister, come with me quickly." "Yes, big brother." I hadn't even had time to ask before a stranger's voice rang out. "Your Highness orders Lord Dalling to come and be questioned. Please proceed at once, my lord." A few of them stepped forward and supported the elder brother. Someone covered his mouth. He could not make a sound, only muffled struggles. The elder brother was taken away. The footsteps returned and stopped by my side. I was taken aback. The eldest princess came to vent her anger on the young duke. She cares about her reputation. Not wanting to cause me trouble publicly, she simply took the opportunity to protect me. As I knelt, I let out a gentle sigh. "Jiang Shueshue, you are indeed somewhat unlucky." 23. Darkness turned to light. My legs have long been devoid of sensation since kneeling last night. The area below the knee has felt as if drained of energy, remaining rigid and numb without any pain sensation. However, upon attempting to move, the pain radiates through the bone fissures, presenting as dense, stabbing sensations that induce visual blurring. I hang my head, and even breathing is difficult. It's getting dark again. I no longer have the strength to hold myself up while kneeling. I have lost consciousness countless times, and countless times I have crawled back up. When dawn was barely breaking, I finally exhausted all my strength and collapsed onto the cold ground. Not far away, a cry suddenly rang out. "Get away, let my second sister go. Can't you see she is there? Move aside." It's the voices of the sisters. I struggled to open my eyes. My vision had long since become blurred, yet those little figures remained clear. They were blocked in the corridor, struggling, crying out, desperately trying to rush over. It turns out that my family has been watching over me all along. I suddenly felt that even if there were regrets, dying now would not be a significant matter. I slowly closed my eyes. The ground suddenly trembled at this moment. The thunderous sound of hooves tore through the grey sky. I seemed to sense something and slowly opened my eyes. A black figure darted through the blossoming crabapple flowers. This time I saw clearly. It really is a swallow. 24. The hoofbeats drew near. The clanking of the iron armor sounded like thunder. The marching in the dawn moved swiftly, like a winding giant snake. The leader's figure was tall and slender, his armor concealing his face, only a pair of cold, fierce eyes visible. Northwest urgent report to present to His Majesty. Those who mismanage will be dealt with by military law. The Shui crest token opens the way, and no one dares to stop it. The convoy arrives at the Jiangfu gate. The youth at the lead dismounts neatly, strides inside. The Long Princess's guards try to stop him. Upon seeing this, his steps falter slightly, his expression somber. He glances coldly and obliquely, and the guards all remain frozen in place, none daring to move. Yang Jingchun walked straight toward the inner courtyard and encountered the eldest son of the Jiang family. Without pausing, he asked, "Where is she?" "In the side courtyard. The princess's attendants are there watching," Jiang Dalang replied promptly, guiding him along. Yang Jingchun moved with astonishing speed, and even Jiang Dalang, who had some martial arts training, had to jog to keep up. The dawn light is as thin as cicada wings, faintly enveloping this four-dimensional world. The surrounding environment was extremely noisy, yet he remained completely unaware. All perceptions had already drifted away with the gaze, settling upon the person lying on the cold, damp ground. The young mistress he had longed for with all his heart would feel excruciating pain even at the mere thought of being humiliated here. Yang Jingchun felt as if her chest had been violently gripped and crushed. He wanted to shout her name, but his throat felt blocked by something, and he couldn't utter a single sound. The princess of the long house still came up to stop him carelessly, and he kicked her away with one foot. He undid his armor and carefully picked up the person on the ground. 25. Awakened by this enormous commotion, I felt myself fall into a warm and broad embrace. Someone with rough palms gently brushed away the strands of hair on my face. So familiar a feeling. I strained to open my eyes, to confirm whether this is really a dying hallucination. The line of sight is obscured by a layer of fog, appearing hazy and indistinct. Then, that face gradually became clearer, a cold and rigid contour. With weary-looking eyebrows and eyes, there is also a profound sense of guilt that is nearly overflowing from the depths of the eyes. The sandstorms from the northwest, along with countless days and nights I never knew about, shaped the young man into a steady and towering figure. Only those eyes have not changed. When you look at me, you remain as gentle as ever. The person who could hold me steady when I fell and give me a shoulder when I cried is back. I clutched his collar, pressed my face against his chest with lingering tenderness, and wept uncontrollably. The garments on her chest were soaked with sweat. Yang Jingchun could laugh off being slashed by a knife or bitten by a wolf. Yet now her tears burned her bones to the point of pain. 26. At Fengyu Tower, the melodies of string and bamboo instruments filled the air as dancers with supple waists smiled charmingly at Xie Jingzhua, but he had no interest in appreciating it. Gong Sunyi, why didn't you speak up earlier? I will go to my mother and explain everything right now. He stood up and was about to rush outside, but after several days of continuous alcohol consumption, even standing up became difficult. Gong Sunyi waved his palm fan and said calmly, "Young prince, don't worry, second lady is protected." Xie Jingzhu frowned and asked, "In all of Shangjing, who else besides me could safeguard her in front of my mother?" "Young prince, have you forgotten that second lady's maternal grandfather and young uncle have guarded the northwestern frontier for years? When did Jiang Sheshue ever have a young uncle?" The state was at peace, Shangjing remained prosperous, and although many displaced people and bandits roamed the northwest, the Shui family's presence kept the sandstorms out of Shangjing's gates. The royal family lived in peace and comfort within their gates, with few people remembering the Shui family from the northwest. Naturally, no one knew about the young general who had killed through bandit hideouts at the age of 12. Gong Sunyi smiled faintly. Yang Jingchun, the adopted son of General Shui and the youngest uncle most cherished by the second lady, has journeyed back day and night for one sole purpose, to escort the second lady back to the northwest. 27. I seem to have slept a very long time. When I woke up, The spring light was warm and gentle, the crabapple blossoms were as lush as brocade, and swallows were busy building nests under the eaves. The person I wanted to see was right beside me. Yang Jingchun, unaware of how long he had kept watch over me, sat with his knees bent by the window and dozed off leaning against the wall. He appeared to be troubled even in his dreams, with his brows furrowed into a distinctive shape. I wanted to get closer to him, so I carefully slid off the bed. I didn't expect to have any strength left in my body. The moment my foot touched the ground, I was about to fall. In the next moment, a broad, sturdy hand held me up firmly. Yang Jingchun's features weary with helplessness said, "Haven't seen you for many years. Why are you still so hard to keep from worrying?" I pursed my lips, unsure of what to say, and remained silent, unimpressed. He carried me onto the bed and wrapped me tightly in the quilt, his eyebrows arched as he smiled faintly. "What, after all these years apart, you've grown distant from Uncle?" His smile softened the sharpness of his expression, and I finally felt a hint of familiarity. I whispered, "No, I miss you a lot." Yang Jingchun paused, then cleared his throat with a light cough. "You little liar, you won't even call me uncle, and yet you say you miss me." I wanted to retort, to tell him what I truly felt. However, the palpitations in the chest were excessively intense, causing me such severe anxiety that I could barely breathe, let alone speak. He didn't respond to me, nor did he get angry. He just gently patted my head. "Are you unhappy in the capital, on our wedding night? Being neglected made me uneasy. Rumors spread all over the city, making me afraid." Xie Jingzhua, regardless of my face, performing the rites of courtiers in front of me with a red carp, made me sick to my stomach. But with just one light sentence from him, I felt I had suffered a great injustice and couldn't help but want to cry. I buried my head and cried quietly without a sound. Yang Jingchun sighed and gently wiped away my tears with the palm of her hand, filled with concern. "Endured so much bullying, and you don't know to seek someone to back you up, you silly girl." I cried even harder. "You're all gone, leaving me alone like this. Who in the capital can support me now that you're not here? Look how you've made our young miss so aggrieved." Yang Jingchun patiently wiped my tears. "Your uncle was wrong. Your uncle will never abandon you again." "Okay," I sniffed, and unusually showed a hint of girlish coquetry. "Really?" Yang Jingchun looked at my red nose and red eyes, and couldn't help but smile softly. "Who would be willing to lie to a little bunny?" He lowered his gaze and watched me, hesitating for a moment, and asked, "Shirashua, would you like to return to the northwest with Uncle?" I was taken aback. "Return to the northwest? To the northwest, back to my home and your grandfather's," he said calmly. "There, no one would dare bully you. You could cry or laugh whenever you wanted. Even if you abandoned so-called feminine norms, no one would say a word against you. The northwest was where my mother and he grew up, and my beloved grandfather was waiting for me there. Everything there has a fatal attraction to me." I looked into his jet-black eyes and whispered, "Then you must promise me that even if we return to the northwest, you will not let me encounter many strangers alone." He beamed and said affectionately, "All right, let's make a pact. Wherever you go, Uncle will follow you." 28. Yang Jingchun received my affirmative reply and went to the palace the next day to present himself. Rather than initially mentioning taking the eldest daughter of the Jiang family back to the northwest, he handed over the military command token and a resignation letter on behalf of General Shui. The northwest bandit problem had already been pacified. With the Shui family holding the military token, it would inevitably arouse the sage suspicion. General Shui, under immense pressure, had been gripping the military token tightly all along, solely to bolster the only child he had left for his daughter. A military talisman exchanges for his own granddaughter's peace and joy. There is nothing more worthwhile in the world. Yang Jingchun walked briskly out of the palace with the imperial edict, her joy in her heart greater than any victory in battle. Since the Jiang and Xie families cannot nurture Shui's pearl well, then they should take care of it themselves. The northwest is boundless. Whoever goes there will become happy. When he reaches the northwest, he will teach his little wife to ride a horse and take her to the desert to see the oases, so she would know that there are still places in the world with such freedom. Yang Jingchun stepped out of the palace gates, only to encounter an unexpected person, little Prince of Jun, Wan. He blocked Xie Jingzhua's horse. Not yielding an inch, Xie Jingzhua hurriedly entered the palace to ask his maternal uncle to grant him a betrothal, and had no desire to deal with this stranger. Move aside quickly. Yang Jingchun stood firm, speaking in a calm tone. These are forbidden grounds of the palace. It may not be appropriate for the prince of a minor state to ride a horse inside. Talkative, Xie Jingzhua, taking advantage of his status and acting presumptuously, tightened the reins and, prepared to step over him, the horse whinnied. Its front hooves rising high, Yang Jingchuan's eyebrows tightened slightly. Gracefully, she leaped from the side and grabbed the saddle. The horse, unbalanced by its weight, toppled to the side, and instantly hurled Xie Jingzhua off. Yang Jingchun landed steadily, flicked at the non-existent dust on his clothes, and clicked his tongue. So dirty. Xie Jingzhua felt both pain and anger, his face pale, and he shouted at the palace guards beside him, "Release this man for me." The guards remained paralyzed with fear, stammering, "Your Highness, this is General Xiao Yang, the adopted son of General Shui." General Fang Fuhuan, the veteran commander, swiftly seized the man before the guards could react. Wouldn't this only confirm the emperor's strategy of killing the donkey to save the horse? Moreover, the princess dowager has just been confined, so Xie Jingzhua can only swallow this silent grievance. 29. During the day I sleep a lot, so at night I love to toss around Yang Jingchun. He may not sleep, he must accompany me to enjoy the flowers and chat casually. Still, just like when we were young, behind a door and a silk curtain. He is outside, I am inside. The shadows of flowers fell upon my shoulder and his, swaying with the breeze and shimmering against the lamplight, as if draped in a shared veil. What did His Majesty say to you when you entered the palace during daylight hours? Yang Jingchun knelt on the threshold, raised his head to take a sip of wine, his throat rising and falling as he spoke in a deep, resonant voice. Just some tiresome chatter. Oh, I seemed determined not to let him rest, asking this and that here and there. He chuckled softly. If you want to say something, say it. Don't be polite with your little uncle. I clutched my handkerchief, bit my lip, hesitated for a long time, and tentatively asked, Do you have a girl you fancy? Yang Jingchun paused. Why do you ask that? I stammered, just out of curiosity. He fell silent, casually lifting the wine jar and taking another sip. Only the sound of wind brushing the flowering trees remained in the room. Just when I thought I wouldn't hear an answer again, he suddenly spoke hoarsely. Yes, she is a very good girl. I was stunned, my head buzzing. I don't know how to describe her. At first, I didn't realize I was fond of her. I only felt that she seemed like a cloud drifting in and out of my heart, yet never bringing rain. The lights were hazy, the veil blurred her features, so gentle. Since the day I realized I adored her, I suddenly began to fear many things. I fear the winter cold, that she might forget to add a coat. I fear the summer heat, that she might not be able to eat. I fear the autumn chill, that she might fall ill, and more fear the arrival of spring, that she might not see the first blooming flower. She left me forever in the capital of the north. Even though I had already returned to the northwest, I still miss everything about here. But fortunately, from now on, I and she will not be apart. With a heavy heart, I asked, Are you going to marry her? Yang Jingchun replied with a bitter tone, No, I will be with her in another way. It turned out that the girl did not like him. A sneaky, despicable joy welled up in my heart, watching his silhouette through the sheer fabric. I mustered my courage and asked, Then why don't you try liking me? 30. Suddenly, there was no sound from the side of the screen curtain. Even the wind held its breath, while the flower shadows stood motionless between me and him. My heartbeat was too fast, so fast that it almost jumped out of my throat, and the fingers gripping the handkerchief turned pale. He still sat on the threshold, the wine jar in his hand hanging in mid-air as if someone had pressed a pressure point. I regretted it the moment the words left my mouth. How could I ask such a thing? When he first spoke of that girl, his voice was so tender yet tinged with bitterness, as if he had laid bare his entire heart to her. I'm talking nonsense, I blurted out, my voice trembling violently. You shouldn't take this seriously. I'm just, what exactly? I couldn't even make sense of what I was saying. Another mess. I experienced a drop in blood pressure with ocular warmth, A soft sound came from the side of the sari, the jar of wine was placed on the bluestone slab, then came the sound of his footsteps, step by step. It moved toward me, my heart rose to my throat. What does he want to do? Is he going to come in and scold me shamelessly, or simply never pay attention to me again? The sheer curtain was drawn aside. In the instant the light rushed in, I saw Yang Jingchuan's face. There was no anger, no disdain, only a complex expression I had never seen before. It was as if surprise, as if disbelief, and also something that had been suppressed for too long, finally could not be held back and overflowed. He stood at the threshold, staring at me intently. What did you just say? His voice was hoarse. Say it again. I opened my mouth but couldn't produce a sound. Moonlight streamed through the doorway, flowing beneath my feet and his, like a milky way. He stepped into the room and stood in front of me. Say that again. He lowered his gaze, looking at me, his voice very soft. I fancy you. Could you try to like me back? I said with a crying tone. I know a lot of things, not inferior to any other concubine. The moment his words fell, he pulled me into his embrace with force. He held me tightly, as if cradling a treasure that had been lost and found again. Idiot, normally so smart, how could you not realize that what I'm saying is meant for you to hear? His voice was muffled above my head. With a touch of trembling I froze, as if my whole body were nailed in place, even forgetting to cry. What do you mean? Yang Jingchun loosened his grip on me a little, lowered his head to look at me, and spoke gravely. The girl I like is you, no one else. I have a buzzing sensation in my head and am unable to comprehend anything. His silhouette faced the light, gazing down at me with eyelashes as pale as moth wings, poised to strike the candle flame behind me at any moment. A thunderous sensation surged through my heart, and I was certain it was love. I could no longer hold back and threw myself into his arms, bursting into loud sobs. Yang Jingchun clung to me tightly, his voice heavy with sorrow. Born amidst chaos in the northwest, I lost my parents and loved ones before my eyes, surviving as a child begging for food in utter confusion. To avenge my blood feud, I adopted the old general as my godfather. Though he treated me with kindness, I remained ungrateful, resenting the heavens for their cruel will that brought me so much suffering. It was only when I met you that I realized the heavens' compassion. How could they pity me so deeply? A girl raised by the Jiang family's strict moral codes, as delicate as a crabapple blossom, needed immense courage to seek a divorce decree from the emperor and confess her feelings to her nominal uncle. Yang Jingchun could accept such treatment from her, and he had no regrets in this life and death. 31. On the day we departed for the northwest, many people came to see us off. The younger sisters stuffed the entire carriage full of gifts, and with reluctance, they bid me farewell. The stepmother also arrived and handed me a box full of banknotes and jewels. This is your dowry from your father. He entrusts you to listen to your grandmother and take good care of yourself. I wanted to refuse, but the stepmother continued. He was consumed by guilt for marrying you off to the county prince's mansion, guilt for forcing you to kneel in punishment that day, and guilt for subjecting you to so much suffering. I pursed my lips, took the box from him, and knelt to bow. Thank you, father and mother. Turning to hand the box to the servant, I noticed Yang Jingchun engaged in conversation with someone. The man was Gong Sunyi, a close friend of Xie Jingzhua. The two men looked remarkably familiar. When Gong Sunyi spotted me, he clasped his hands in greeting and said, "Second lady, how are you?" He stood aside. Yang Jingchun teased, "Aren't you going to introduce me?" Yang Jingchun snorted softly and ignored him. "Then I'll do it myself." Gong Sunyi grinned shamelessly at me. "Second madam. I am Gong Sunyi, also known as Gong Sun Sheng. I once served as a strategist under the northwestern Yang general. When the young general first attacked the bandit camp, it was by using my chrysanthemum hidden dragon technique that we achieved a decisive victory." Chrysanthemum hidden dragon technique. With such a lousy method, you still have the nerve to bring it up. Yang Jingchun covered his mouth and handed him to a nearby guard. "Get him out of here." I hadn't had time to bid farewell to Gong Sunyi before he helped me onto the carriage. 32. Dust swirled, and the carriage gradually disappeared into the spring shade of the trees. When Xie Jingzhua hurried to the city gate, he only saw Gong Sunyi, who hadn't left yet. is Jiang Shishue." He grabbed Gong Sunyi by the collar, his eyes bloodshot as if about to bleed. Gong Sunyi confessed frankly, "I just left with General Yang." Xie Jingzhua erupted in fury. "Didn't I tell you to stop her first? Does the young prince believe the second lady left you because I failed to intervene?" Gong Sunyi smiled faintly. "Since your wedding to the second lady, you've had countless chances to confess your feelings and start anew, but you chose to cling to your innate pride, trampling her sincerity underfoot. Who can truly be kept from leaving? You didn't cherish what you had when you gained it, and now you're unworthy of holding on when it's gone." With that, he straightened his robes and walked away, leaving Xie Jingzhua standing frozen in place, gazing at the swaying, empty tree shadows. 33 As we were approaching the northwest, I suddenly felt some nervousness. I have never met my maternal grandfather. Would he dislike me, or disapprove of my relationship with Yang Jingchun? Noticing my distress, the man beside me leaned forward, casually plucked a fresh green leaf, folded it, and began to play a melodious tune. The melody carries the ruggedness characteristic of northwest China, yet it cannot conceal the underlying sorrow. This melody was composed by the old general. On every Memorial Day for your mother, he would play this tune and sit outside all day long, he always said. He feared his daughter might come to the northwest to find him, yet never saw her. How could the old general, who loved his daughter so deeply, possibly not like you? I felt a lump in my throat, burying my head into his chest. What should we do if Grandpa doesn't approve of us? He spoke firmly and decisively. It won't happen. I looked at him in astonishment. When I received the news of your separation, I had already confessed my feelings to the old general. Yang Jingchuan's expression was as usual, but I was frightened and anxious. What will my grandfather-in-law's reaction be? Nothing was said at all. He picked up the whip and started beating me. He spoke lightly. Even though the old general beat me to the point where I had no strength left, I wouldn't yield, since he couldn't get any response from me. He told me to roll back to the capital to ask for your intention. Did you get beaten? I didn't care about anything else and hurriedly pulled off his clothes. Yang Jingchun quickly held my wrist, the roots of her ears turning a little red. What are you doing? I want to see the wound. I was anxious, my eyes reddening. Grandfather is a military man. Beating someone hurts a lot, right? He let out a soft laugh and pulled me back into his embrace. How long has it passed? It's healed long ago. You're lying, I said gloomily. It's so cold in the northwest that wounds heal slowly. Let me see. Yang Jingchun sighed, feeling helpless about me, and turned around. Slowly lifting the back of her robe to reveal her slender waist, scars were scattered across his back in a crisscross pattern, some having faded while others still exhibited a fresh pinkish hue. The deepest grooves extend from the scapulae to the lumbar region, resembling grotesque ravines. I gently touched him with my fingertips. Does it hurt? His ear tips turned red, and his voice sounded muffled. It doesn't hurt anymore, but I don't know why you feel an intense itch whenever you touch it. Then I won't touch it. I quickly withdrew my hand, fearing to cause him pain. Yang Jingchun lowered her robe, turned around, and pulled me into her arms, his face pressed into my neck crease, his breathing labored like a butterfly adrift without a destination. I whispered, "What's wrong? Did I hurt you?" "No," he replied, lifting his head with furrowed brows. "I just don't know what's wrong. I feel a bit uncomfortable and don't know what to do. I just want to hold you." His words were filled with uncertainty, but I seemed to understand. I leaned close to him, planting a kiss on his lips, and asked with a flushed face, "Are you feeling better now?" His face, hardened by the northwest sandstorms, gradually flushed as well, starting from the ear root, spreading over the cheeks, and extending to the neck with redness. It was as if I had returned to my youth, separated by a door and a gauze curtain, surrounded by lush greenery and clusters of crabapple blossoms. That bright-eyed young man went to great lengths just to make me smile. Behind him lies spring, unstoppable even by an army of thousands.